Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the story of one of history's most mysterious and controversial figures, Helen of Troy.
You've probably heard this line before, right? For centuries, this one question has basically been Helen's entire resume. The beautiful face that was the passive cause of a catastrophic war. Her beauty was her whole story.
But what if that's not the whole story? Not even close. The ancient sources themselves paint a picture that's way more complicated, even contradictory. She's a villain, a victim, a goddess. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't even real. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so let's start with what we all think we know. The basics of the legend, the story you probably heard in school. The ultimate tale of love, betrayal, and all-out war.
1,000. That's the legendary number. 1,000 ships, supposedly launched by the Greeks, all to get one woman back from Troy. I mean, just think about that scale for a second. It's absolutely epic, and it's what really cements her name in mythology.
So the simple story goes like this. Helen gets swept away by the Trojan prince, Paris, and boom, you've got a decade-long war. That's the version that stuck around for centuries. But here's the first major twist. The story really begins with a woman who wasn't even entirely moral to begin with.
Yeah, see, her origins are, well, they're not exactly normal. They're rooted in the divine, which immediately sets her apart from, everyone else. And it kind of hints at the chaos that's about to unfold.
So on paper, she's the daughter of a Spartan king. But pretty much all the big ancient sources, including Homer's epics, say her real dad was Zeus, the king of the gods. And look, this isn't just some fun fact. It's absolutely central to her entire myth.
So you've got these two wild stories. In one, Zeus shows up as a swan, and Helen hatches from an egg. In the other, he pursues the goddess Nemesis, who's turned into a goose, and still, Helen hatches from an egg. The main takeaway here is that no matter which myth you go with, her story starts with a god's intervention. I mean, she literally hatches from an egg. How crazy is that?
And that divine origin brings us right to the absolute heart of the matter, the central question about Helen. Did she choose to go with Paris, or was she kidnapped? And honestly, the answer completely depends on which ancient source you're reading.
Okay, so on one hand, you have poets like Sappho and even Homer who pretty clearly paint a picture of a Helen who made a conscious choice. She left her husband, she left her kid, and she sailed for Troy. The story here is that she was swayed by the goddess Aphrodite, who had promised Paris he could have the most beautiful woman in the world.
But then, fast forward a few centuries, and you get a totally different take. You see all these Renaissance paintings where the event is shown as a violent, forced abduction. This version really leans into her being a victim. Now, it's worth noting the word rape back then often just meant kidnapping, but you can't deny the imagery here is all about force.
So you see the problem, right? This is the core conflict of her myth. Was she a woman acting on her own free will, whether for passion or because a goddess told her to? Or was she just a helpless pawn, caught in the middle of a game being played by gods and powerful men? There's no easy answer.
Okay, so we have this huge debate, seduction or abduction. But hang on, because the mystery is about to get way, way deeper. The whole debate might be missing the most shocking possibility of them all.
In Homer's Iliad, we get this really sad picture of Helen inside Troy. She's lonely, she's full of regret. She says everyone there shudders at her. She feels hated by the Trojans, and she hates herself for all the deaths she's caused. It's a powerful image. But what if even that is just a story?
Yeah, you heard me right. What if she was never in Troy at all? And get this isn't some modern fan theory. A bunch of major ancient writers actually proposed this exact idea. It is a total mind-bending twist.
The word they used was eidolon. It's an ancient Greek word for a phantom, a kind of spirit image or a double. Think of it like a duplicate made out of clouds. Their argument? The entire Trojan War wasn't fought over the real Helen, but over this phantom.
And it wasn't just one guy. The poet Stesichorus wrote that only a phantom went to Troy. Euripides wrote a whole play about it where the real Helen is just chilling in Egypt the whole time. And even Herodotus, the father of history, said that priests in Egypt told him she was kept safe there for the entire war. Just imagine that. The 1,000 ships, the burning towers, Achilles, Hector, all of it, fought over an illusion. A war for a ghost.
So with a life story this full of contradictions, you probably won't be surprised to hear that the stories about her death are just as all over the place.
Okay, so fate number one is surprisingly normal. In Homer's Odyssey, she just goes back home to Sparta. She's a queen again, everything's seemingly fine, and she's even telling war stories over dinner. A quiet, almost domestic end to a completely epic life.
Then you have fate number 2. In this version, because she's the daughter of Zeus, the gods basically say, okay, you're done. They swoop in and just take her up to Mount Olympus to live forever as an immortal. She sheds her mortal life and goes back to being divine.
And then there's the third fate. And this one is dark. The story goes that after Menelaus dies, she's exiled, and on the island of Rhodes, she's hanged by a vengeful war widow. A really brutal end, but one that some might say was fitting for a figure blamed for so much death.
So which one is true? Who knows? Villain, victim, goddess, phantom, she was never just one simple thing. And get this, even after all these stories about her death, she was literally worshipped as a goddess in places like Sparta and Rhodes for centuries.
And maybe that's the real point. Maybe Helen's true power wasn't her beauty, but her ambiguity. Her story is so powerful because it's not clear. It's a mirror. For 3,000 years, she's been a blank slate where every culture projects its own ideas about desire, blame, guilt, and fate. And that, right there, is why we're still talking about her today.